this video interview, we're having a look at self-forgiveness, and a point that came up in the speaking of self-forgiveness is the momentum of speaking the actual words when walking through speaking your self-forgiveness out loud. And I would even suggest this within writing your self-forgiveness, because within our mind consciousness systems we have existed within mind time, which is energy experience, and that would automate our total living and doing within our world and our reality. And we've walked you through the process of assisting and supporting yourself in breath and breathing to slow yourself down into walking here with your human physical body. That process as well facilitate in assisting and supporting yourself to make sure that you become more attentive in how you do things and what you do and the moment of who you are within all of that. Because as one is walking throughout one's daily participation, one will realize the extent to which everything is habitually automated, and you just automatically do this, go here, go there, and that has supported and assisted that whole manifestation of existing within the mind, because we've never really actually paid attention to our actual physical walking with the human physical body, and within that haven't paid attention to who we are within what we do, as we do it, why and how. So with and as you're walking your process from mind time as energy experience, habitually automated pre-programmed movement, to walking here with your human physical body with and as breathing, this will also assist and support your process with writing self-forgiveness and speaking self-forgiveness. When you are writing your self-forgiveness, also be watchful of that tendency where one simply just write self-forgiveness and it becomes automated. The mind consciousness system is very sneaky within that context of where it resonantly starts creeping in, and before you find yourself again, you are actually just writing self-forgiveness. You're not doing self-forgiveness. You're not walking the self-forgiveness as yourself, in fact, forgiving yourself. That's also why doing your speaking self-forgiveness and writing self-forgiveness together, because that'll make sure that if there are, for example, statements or sentences within your written self-forgiveness that you may have had a dimensional shift within yourself, where it was simply a statement written down without actually walking it with yourself, it'll come out in your speaking of self-forgiveness out loud, because it'll show as discomfort in the physical, or cracks in the voice, or a cough, or an itch, or various different physical experiences that emerge that'll show you, okay, that statement was not in fact done as yourself with you when you've written that out. And within writing self-forgiveness, there's also obviously then much more of a tendency to go into the mind resonant positioning of simply writing it out, where it becomes a habit and it's just written, it's not walked, it's not in fact words written and walked as self. In speaking that point for self to assist and support self in releasing that program, the crystals in the physical is where the program manifested into the human physical body, to actually release the memories, the experiences, the reactions, the thoughts, and the personality. And therefore, as I've said, definitely write your self-forgiveness and speak your self-forgiveness, to make sure that within your writing it wasn't done within automated habit, but that it was in fact walk, and your sounding of it will assist and support you with that cross-reference. So when you are writing self-forgiveness, really as you're writing, I forgive myself that I've accepted and allowed myself to react to a woman walking through the door in the coffee shop because she reminded me as and of my mother's friend that used to extremely irritate me. And I forgive myself that I've accepted and allowed myself to react in irritation towards the woman and connecting her to my past, and within that not accepting and allowing me to actually meet the woman for who and how she is within herself. So as you're, for example, writing out those two statements, it is to be here within yourself as you're writing it, and because you'll be able to use the reference of, we tend to, when writing self-forgiveness, either with pen, pencil, on paper, or on the PC, that you'll realize that your attention is there on the screen or there on the keyboard as you're busy typing. So you're kind of shifting outside of yourself, and within that, the points just automatically come up within yourself, and then you start writing it. But that is simply only writing out the structure of what you're seeing within the context of self-forgiveness. So it does not, in fact, applying self-forgiveness. It's simply writing out the point that came up within a self-forgiveness statement. Therefore, to make sure that when you're writing self-forgiveness on paper or on your PC, that reference that you can use of "I'm here" is to make sure that you can actually move yourself within yourself into your human physical body, where your focus is within yourself, and it's like you are looking at the point that's coming up within you. So if you, for example, sit here in front of your computer, you can use your eyes as a reference. If you move your eyes downward, and actually feels like you're actually looking into and towards and inside yourself, that moment of looking within yourself is a reference that you can use. Okay, I'm here, I'm looking within myself. And as you're typing, make sure that you maintain that stance, that point, that position within you, that it is me writing me. It's not where you are just automatically, the points are just coming up and you're writing it within a self-forgiveness statement. It is actually a written self-forgiveness of what I see is coming up within me as I am here with me. And therefore, like the statement, I'm just going to use a simple one, where you would sit with your computer but your focus is by the screen and on your keyboard, so you're kind of shifting outwards towards there, and a point of annoyance come up, and it's just simply, I forgive myself that I accepted and allowed myself to be annoyed. And that point is, again, just writing out that annoyance. You could have just as well written out, I'm annoyed. It would have been exactly the same. So it wasn't an actual self-forgiveness. If it was an actual self-forgiveness, the point would come up, you'd be here with yourself, utilizing your breathing as well as a stable reference point, and it's an actual, I forgive myself that I have accepted and allowed myself to be annoyed. So your writing, we suggest slowing it down, because even with typing, it can become an automated habit where it's easy to simply write something down without you even being present within your writing. So to practice that hereness in your writing, slow your writing down. Walk it as you would speak it in terms of really, I forgive myself that I have accepted and allowed myself to be annoyed. And you can even speak it within yourself as you're typing it. That would also assist and support with the hereness point of speak it. Yeah, that works. I just practiced it for a moment inside myself as I was looking at it. That would be very cool if you speak it within yourself as you're typing it. That will help you with the, I'm actually writing it as me. It's not this fast automatic typing of individual random points that's coming up within me. Yeah, so that's what we suggest, is speaking it within yourself as you're typing it. I mean, that's your most stable cross-reference of I'm here, and it will also stop that tendency of it having be just automatic writing. So it is like automatic writing. It's almost just like channeling a system part that's coming up within you and simply just writing it out, instead of actually doing the self-forgiveness. And then another point is that we've seen or noticed is a tendency to simply copy and paste the I forgive myself, that I've accepted and allowed myself section over and over again, and just simply adding the statements in afterward. That's not applying self-forgiveness. That is, again, simply writing out something within the context of structuring it within self-forgiveness, but is not doing actual self-forgiveness. This process is about walking self-forgiveness. For you to walk that actual self-forgiveness of that point is to write out from the beginning to the end as you're practically walking it step by step by step for yourself. I mean, copying and pasting is simply, again, and just adding a section in afterward is, again, you might as well have just written the statement out in the context of what it exists. So utilizing, for example, I forgive myself that I've accepted and allowed myself to be annoyed, and you'd copied that I forgive myself that I've accepted and allowed myself, and added to be annoyed, or to be, or go into anger, or things like that. You might as well have just said, I'm annoyed, I'm angry, that woman reminded me of my friend in the past. Or it's not actually doing self-forgiveness, it's simply veiling the same thing within different words, and then making oneself believe that you've actually realized something, that you've actually released, and that you've actually changed. So the mind consciousness system is quite a sneaky thing, meaning if you do not sit down and do the actual practical walking, you're not going to change, you're not going to release, and you're not going to come to realizations. I mean, I suppose many now listening to this video interview will go, oh, that makes sense, because of the tendency of writing just automatically without in fact being here and applying self-forgiveness, and simply copying and pasting and adding things. Your self-forgiveness might have also been experienced like empty, like it felt like you weren't going anywhere or moving within anything or realizing anything. It's because of that point you haven't in fact done self-forgiveness. I mean, self-forgiveness within the very statement, you will in fact see if you're doing it for real, because there will be a realization. You'll go, oh my God, I see. And within that, you'll see a solution as well at the same time, because when you apply self-forgiveness for real, it is an actual step that you're taking of accepting and allowing responsibility for that point. Within taking responsibility, you're standing equal and one with that point. Within standing equal and one with that point, you will see yourself in relation to that, because you're stepping out of the mind into the physical. So we suggest put in the time, put in the effort, and the patience. Walk it through step by step by step. I mean, again, you're just going to extend, prolong, and time loop within your process if you try and find shortcuts. There are no shortcuts. The only way to walk this is step by step by step, and in fact walking and doing, which is walking your self-forgiveness and your writing word by word by word, taking it slowly and assisting and supporting yourself in walking it for real. And then with the speaking as well, when you're speaking self-forgiveness, make sure that it doesn't go, I forgive myself that I've accepted and allowed myself to be annoyed. I forgive myself that I've accepted and allowed myself to become angry at my sister when she was throwing the ball at me and it hit me. I forgive myself that I've accepted and allowed myself to be angry at the clerk within the shop because they seem to be evasive with me, and I do not like when people are evasive with me. I forgive myself that I've accepted and allowed myself to react to my food that I had gotten from the restaurant because it didn't seem made well enough, and I do not enjoy my food not being made good enough. I mean, just as examples of random statements, if you walk yourself like that, you can immediately experience within your human physical body that you are not here in your human physical body, that you're not in fact applying self-forgiveness, and that you're actually walking it with an energy. And if you, just for now, if you want to play with it for a moment, speak some self-forgiveness like out loud, but very fast, like I just did. Then you'll experience like an energy forming inside your solar plexus, and your back kind of goes a bit stiff, and you'll feel pressure on your head area. It's just showing that your very starting point of self-forgiveness is in the mind. You're not applying self-forgiveness. Remember, to change in terms of self-forgiveness, writing, self-corrective application, the ingredient is self. I mean, you must be here walking self-forgiveness, writing, and self-corrective application. If you're not here and you're in the mind, it won't work, because you're simply time looping within the same starting point over and over and over again. The structure of self-forgiveness, writing, and self-corrective application is so specific in terms of with self walking with it within one's mind consciousness system will be the practical support and assistance tools for you to walk your excavation process into the caves that is the total mind consciousness system. I mean, if you're not there with that tools, the mind consciousness system is going to drink it up and simply use it for its own purposes. So again, you need to be here with it, walking it, in fact. So do not accept and allow yourself to sabotage your process by looking for shortcuts, by speeding it within the mind, by being lazy. If you slow yourself down, I mean, we have this tendency to think or believe that we need to rush through things, we need to hurry, there's no time, we have to do this and that and that. And in that, we try and incorporate our process within that rush, not realizing that it's in the very rushing that we actually waste the most time, because you're not doing anything specifically, you're not doing anything, in fact. And within that, you're just accumulating your process. So in rushing and hurrying and speeding through everything, you're actually just prolonging your process. You're not doing anything faster. It's in the slowing down, in doing it specifically, and in fact walking it and getting it done, doing it one time, doing it properly, walking it through and seeing it through, that you'll move faster. So with your speaking of your self-forgiveness, speak it slowly, speak it clearly, speak it directly. I forgive myself that I've accepted and allowed myself to become irritated. Why speak it slowly as well? If you hear my words in speaking it slowly, you can hear the sound of your voice expressed through your human physical body, and you can test within that experience of your voice through your body if your self-forgiveness is in fact real. If it is an actual voiced statement of self-forgiveness, it is this clear expressed movement of your voice that express through your whole body. It's clear, it's stable, and you're here, and you can move on to the next statement. Again, you simply hear the difference, and you'll feel the difference, and you'll be the difference in walking your self-forgiveness slowly but surely, effectively, word by word, and actually forgiving yourself. I forgive myself that I have accepted and allowed myself to become angry at my sister when she threw the ball at me and it hit me, not realizing, seeing and understanding that it wasn't a purposed, intended action, but instead accepted and allowed myself to go into my mind instead of seeing the actual reality of the moment. See, even as you walk it with you step by step and your voice expressed through the body, more realizations will naturally emerge as you're speaking it. It's quite fascinating. So when you're, for example, starting a self-forgiveness statement, it's like you're walking through that point in the programming, and as you're walking it, more points within you start opening up in relation to that point, because you're starting to become more equal and one with you and that moment in actual reality. And so you're starting to see a perspective that you hadn't considered because you were in your mind. You can't see such points any other way but walking it with self-forgiveness, because self-forgiveness takes you through that program. If you walk it within the mind, you're not going to see any other realization. And then all you'll, for example, say is, I forgive myself that I've accepted and allowed myself to become angry at my sister throwing the ball at me. And that will be it. I mean, that's not self-forgiveness. Self-forgiveness will have an actual realization and insight where you will see reality beyond the programming. Like I used the example where the being would then see, oh my God, it wasn't purposeful or intended. It was me that went into my mind, and in that reacted and created a whole scenario or situation instead of simply being here in the physical. So there's another cross-reference that you can use for yourself. That there will always be an insight, a realization within a self-forgiveness statement or point that you're walking where you'll see something more that will assist and support you within yourself and your process. Okay, so here's just some practical points to consider in walking your self-forgiveness slowly and actually doing self-forgiveness. Thanks.